Today, I wanted to have some fun and play around with 5 overall topics for 3 card spreads. I know when I was first starting out, I really had wanted someone to literally handhold, walk me through a spread, and talk a bit about the relationship between the cards and the spread overall. So, we're gonna give that a go today. I am using today the Two Bugs Tarot. I thought this was a fun deck, so we're having some fun today. So the first spread, 3-card spread that I wanted to share with you guys today is like a daily snapshot. And what I have found really helpful for me is the energy of the day, the challenge, and then the advice. I think this is taking your daily draw and going just a little bit deeper with it. You can do this in the morning before your day kind of unfolds and starts, or you can use it after the fact and reflect on the day. Let's see our energy of the day. Ooh, 9 of Cups. Okay, like that energy. We have the challenge, which is judgment, and then our advice is strength. I really adore this 9 of Cups. And by the way, just to preface this, I don't know what the cards are. I just put them in piles, so this is me just kind of reading on the fly here. But the 9 is a really great, amazing card. I love how it's represented here. It's very innocent, having a lot of fun. You're kind of reveling in the good things that have come your way or that you feel are coming your way. And just a reminder to have some gratitude in everything that you have right now. It's kind of like a overflowing day. But to that point, overflow can also be a destructive element. So that's where I feel like the challenge here comes in with the judgment card. And I think that this judgment card in particular is kind of genius. I forget what this particular ocean creature is called, but they live really, really deep under the ocean. But they have something to draw in prey, right? Because they need to also fend for themselves. It's really dark down there and they use it to draw in. If you've ever seen one of these fish, I mean, this drawing is super cute, but if you've truly ever seen one of these fish, you kind of know it can be scary looking and it can be startling, right? Having too much can be really startling. It can feel very heavy and profound in a way, almost overwhelming. And I like that both of these cards have a water aspect to them. Obviously, this is a deep sea creature, and this figure here is kind of splashing and playing around in the water. It can bring forward some new clarity that maybe you've been needing, but sometimes getting to that clarity can feel like a lot. It can be a little distracting, right? When we're juggling so much here. There is a risk of all of these falling over and tipping and spilling. Also, I want to take note here that both of these are the card right before the end, so second to last. The 9 comes right before the 10, which is usually symbolic of the end of a cycle. Judgment is that kind of awakening before the big reveal, right? So it's really kind of interesting to see here we have 2 cards side by side that are the cards that come before the resolution. So there's something on the horizon, and I think we could take this advice in embracing yourself. In this 3-card spread example with the advice, it's having your own back, trusting in yourself, trusting in your own companionship, really taking stock of what you know about yourself, how you respond to things when they come up, to challenges. We see that these figures here are in an embrace, but eventually that embrace must end. So in strength, there's a bit of letting go that needs to be done. Maybe a little tip is to do this in your evening routine, because you can bring forward some of the things that you already know have happened and put them into context and how they relate to one another, especially if you're also still learning each meaning of the cards. So the next 3-card spread that I wanted to discuss today is a very simple, like, decision-making spread. We have here option A, option B, and the best course of action at this time. For times of indecision, I think this spread is really helpful to weigh options, and you can add more options in here. Maybe you have 3 or 4, but just know the more options that you have to consider and weigh, maybe the little bit more muddled the reading could get. I mean, there is a way you could definitely organize it. All right, so we have option A, option B, and the best course of action. Okay, very interesting. Option A, we have the devil here. So I think this is the option that maybe has been throwing a wrench into everything that has caused the uncertainty to kind of come forward. But it might be more risky to take, but the reward might be a little bit more shiny and wonderful. Then there is a second option here with the Page of Pentacles, where this option might take a little bit more time, a little bit more effort, but perhaps in the long run it will be more successful and a little bit less stressful perhaps. And it's interesting because the Devil here is a mirror a little bit of the Lovers, where there's two figures that are coming together and what they hope is love and beauty, and also represents choice, right? And I think on the flip side, which is the Devil here, we have those two people, but something else has kind of come in between them and it's shaken things up. That's just something to kind of be aware of with this option. This one, it feels more guaranteed that it will happen, but like I said, it'll take a little bit more work and the progress will be slow. So our best course of action here, it's interesting because we have the Knight of Swords. I think it's come to a time where a decision has to be made. The Knight of Swords is the fastest court card in all of the suits. It could be potentially the fastest card in an entire tarot deck. So we're at the point now where we just need to make a decision and run with it. Just be dedicated to it. Alrighty, next we have here is some relationship insight, which is always fun, right? I think that this spread will help provide insight into interpersonal dynamics, which will help you understand like your role, the other person's perspective, and then the overall relationship energy, because we have this card represents you, this card represents the other person, and then this card speaks to the connection that these two have. So it's useful for navigating friendships or family or romantic relationships. I think it brings forward a little bit more empathy and understanding. It allows you to take a step back and see things from a little bit of a bigger picture. I think it encourages some like open heart kind of communication and dialogue with yourself that you can then carry through with the other person. And it's overall good for self-awareness, I think. So let's see what we have. Very interesting. Okay, so we have two opposites here. I think this is a case of opposites attract. If I were to, I mean, not necessarily just speaking in terms of a romantic relationship. I think a lot of friendships are built on opposites. I think a lot of family members experience opposites. So we have two very different people. The Emperor is a little bit more rigid, has a little bit more authority. This just feels more stern and rigid and kind of more, I guess, type A. I don't like typing people, but that, you know, need for organization, that need for structure, where someone might struggle with going with the flow or letting their hair down from time to time. And then we have the Knight of Cups, which is like the lovers of the lovers of the lovers of the tarot. Very swoon worthy, very much in their feelings, very emotionally led. They are a dreamer. They wear their heart on their sleeve. They follow their heart to a fault. And what's interesting about the connection that they have is the Six of Swords here. I think this is a really cool card to get for the connection because the Swords is all about air, but the Six of Swords is always or traditionally shown someone in a boat on the water going towards what they feel is better horizons for a new start. And they might be carrying some baggage with them as much as they try to leave it behind. There's always something that kind of comes with you that you hadn't planned for or didn't know or weren't aware of. And I think this speaks to the dynamic here really well. That need for emotional connection for this person, but that need for authority and structure for this person. I think if they can find the right balance, that they can both become this vessel that takes them to new heights, new horizons, new experiences. I think it will loosen up this person over here who's a little bit more rigid and maybe put a little bit more structure here for the Knight of Cups, because you can only be so willy-nilly when you're in the context of a boat. You can, you know, when you're on the water, you can only go as far as the boat is big, right? So it kind of will rein them in a little bit. All right, on to our fourth 3-card spread, second to last here. We have a problem solving and clarity. So kind of a little bit similar to spread number 2, which was decision making, but this one is more focused on when you're feeling stuck, not just about an issue or options, but what you might be overlooking and an appropriate step to kind of take. It can help uncover underlying influences or blockages. It might offer a new path forward with some more practical guidance that you hadn't considered before. So it's very empowering for those situations where you feel you need to move past obstacles versus choosing a path and just going with it. This is maybe perhaps you are on your path and you come across an obstacle, and how can we problem solve and get through that if it's something that you're needing guidance on. So for this one, we have the problem, a hidden factor, and the best action to take. So the Chariot is very much about fate and choice and kind of how those two come together in a way, or if they can even. It's about taking matters into our own hands. So the traditional is a charioteer, and they are guiding the horses, often without seeing the reins. So it's more about intuitive inner guidance, about taking matters into your own hands, because you need to steer. You're trying to go a certain direction, and you have that power. The problem here in context, because it is the problem card, sometimes when we act too quickly, it can really thrust us into a whole other set of problems that maybe we weren't expecting. But at the same time, this is still an action card, and it doesn't want us to linger in our thoughts too much. And I think that's what the Ace of Swords here is kind of warning us about. The hidden factor is there is some strategy in having a plan, but over planning is also like an issue as well. But there is a way to have something in place, have something a little bit more thought out, but still being able to maneuver and adjust as needed and be more rapid. The hidden aspect is if you took a little bit of time to have a little bit of a plan, like the Cliff Notes or a bullet point list, right? Something that isn't too complex, but it's like the high level overview with a couple of points for each thing, to give it kind of a practical example there, I think will allow a new way of seeing things to come forward that can kind of help you be more clear in where you're going and your direction. It's having that trust in yourself that you can move quickly, but you can be calculated at the same time, and both of those factors will result in something even better than you originally had. To tie in the Page of Cups here, I think the page speaks to that intuitive piece that we can't put meaning or knowing to. It's just that initial hit on something. I also think this is a call to action to kind of pay attention to your feelings in all of this, whether that be in the conscious mind or the subconscious mind. I think you should consider and welcome all of them, because I think it will help round out this need for speed, I guess, that's going on. And our final 3-card spread that I have here that I wanted to kind of go over is a spiritual check-in, or mind, body, spirit. I think this is one of the most common spreads that I see kind of everywhere. I think this is a like holistic approach to self-care, but that's also quick hit on it as well. I think it helps assess your overall well-being and where you're at the present moment, and maybe some areas that might need more attention. I think this is something that is good for a weekly or monthly basis. I don't know. You could probably put it in context of every day instead of like the first spread where we talked about energy, challenge, advice. I think it could just be a check-in with yourself. So just kind of remember that this is your practice, and you can mold it and change it into however it's going to work best for you. So your mind here, I think there's a conscious choice that maybe you've been weighing, which maybe then would be good to break off and do maybe the decision making spread that we went over earlier in this video. I think that would help give your mind some clarity. But because of this, it feels muddledness here that you've been going through lately. Maybe you aren't sleeping as much, maybe you aren't eating the right things, and your body is really taking notice here. It's kind of putting up its red flags, so to speak, after all the other ones have kind of dropped, and saying it needs a little bit more attention and care. These two things specifically are a bigger picture of your spiritual self. Your spirit is really feeling that conflict, and it's feeling that taxation, I think, especially mentally. You don't have to arrive at the finish line, so to speak, by yourself. You have the opportunity for it to be going over that finish line with other people, or with your mind and body maybe more intact or more rested, giving more space for you to address these things, which is interesting because maybe one of these represents mind and the body, but you know, your spirit is feeling like they've been kind of fending for themselves for a little while, and it's really starting to take a toll. So why not give one of these, you know, a sword to each of these birds here, and help your body and your mind recover by giving them some resources, right? Putting some resources in here. Maybe, like I said, exploring more and doing a decision-making spread to help clear your mind and make you feel a little bit more rest assured, which can then give you more mental and emotional space to physically take care of your body, which would then help lighten your spirit a little bit more. So to give some closing to this video, I know we kind of got a little bit more in depth than I think I was even thinking, but I really wanted this to be helpful to help you connect the different cards together. I think 3-card spreads are great for those who want to branch out from, like I said, that daily 1-card draw, and giving a little bit more context, but in a structured way. Because when I was first starting out and I was like, okay, I want to do a 3-card spread now, and I was like, all right, mind, body, spirit, but how do these cards talk to one another? I need someone to give me an example of that, so my brain has an example. I'm very visual in that nature, and going by an example, it really helps me to retain information. So I hope you found this helpful. These spreads are so easy to modify for very specific questions or life situations. The sky's kind of the limit with 3-card spreads. It's more efficient in a way. It's like perfect for those who have maybe limited time or who prefer more quick actionable insights that go a little bit beyond like the daily draw kind of context. And the greatest thing about these is that they're fairly accessible in that they don't require a whole lot of advanced skills. And I will say, like, use your guidebooks. Don't get frustrated with yourself if you're not understanding how the cards are communicating with one another. Read the guidebook for each card, because there might be a keyword that shows up in each that you can then use to go off of to thread that common theme, right? So 3-card spreads are great for all like levels. They meet people where they're at. It's a really nice practice to get into. So thank you so much for spending some time here with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it some love and support if you did. And until next time, see you around.